Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybook Family Farm. Today I actually started working on cleaning out the old camper that's on our property. I've realized that things have been a little bit weird for me, like kind of in a weird headspace. And I wanted to actually just sort of vent with you guys and show with you guys for a little bit. Just because honestly, talking to the camera is kind of like talking to an old friend. So it's actually kind of nice for me to get a release. So, um, I've realized, well, let me back up. Yesterday I had a rheumatology appointment, and things were kind of weird the whole day. So Tracy normally is off on Wednesdays, and she ended up having to go in, which just threw off my entire routine. I didn't get up early enough to take care of all the animals by myself, so she ended up being significantly late for work because, for one, she didn't know she was going to get called in. For two, she ended up having to help me get all the animals done so that way I had enough time that I could leave for my appointment and all that stuff. But so the whole way up to my appointment, I was really like on edge and irritated and frustrated. Like I've been struggling a lot lately, trying to just figure out what my next steps are, figure out what is best for me, for us, for our homestead, for our farm, for our property, for so many different things, and for our business also. And it's been a lot, like just rumbling around in my noggin of feeling like I need to make decisive, clear decisions and stuff like that. I'm at kind of like a pivotal turning point, a fork in the road sort of a situation. And it feels like I have to hurry up and figure it all out right now, which, I know that nothing's going to explode, like if I don't, but it just sort of feels that way. And when I got to the rheumatologist, I actually was sitting in the waiting room for well over an hour past my appointment, which, they were busy, they were behind, doctor's offices. That's kind of how it always is. And it was very strange because I realized that I recognized somebody that was in the waiting room, and it was somebody that I used to work with almost 10 years ago in the nursing homes. So it was back in, God, I think it was 2017 whenever I worked with this person. And just seeing her and sitting there, being around this person's presence and stuff like that. Like I was actually, somewhat friends with this person whenever I worked with them and everything. Like it just took me back to who I was back then, before a bunch of craziness happened, before my career was taken from me, before my joints started giving me so much grief and so many problems, and I went down the path of getting diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And before everything was taken from me, that's when I knew this person. So it was basically before I started a very difficult journey in my life. And like I kept like replaying all these memories of, how wide-eyed and dreamy I was back then, of like what the future could hold for me, what the potential outcome could be and stuff. Because at that moment when I knew this person, I was actually getting advice from them about going into nursing school, going to school, becoming a nurse, what vein I should go down, what would be the best way to go about this, and that sort of a thing. And I was actually already accepted into nursing school, was going to go about this. And then I took one little misstep, quite literally stepped off the bumper of our truck, and I ruptured 2 tendons in my ankle on my way to work. So that, as you could imagine, put everything kind of on hold. It made it so that way I couldn't go to nursing school because I was supposed to have surgery right like at the same time that I was supposed to start school. A whole bunch of other things happen in our personal lives that, I'm not going to discuss on camera, because even though Tracy and I have healed from them, I don't think other people, I don't think it's my place to bring up the harm that others had done to us. Even though we've forgiven and we've gotten past that, I think that I don't think it serves anybody. But basically, our entire lives were blown apart from the inside out that year. And things were extremely difficult. And that year was also the year that we kind of started fiddling around with homesteading just a little bit, just sort of dabbling in it. Basically, I built a greenhouse because I wanted to grow something that I had found some seeds for. And so I built a greenhouse that then I decided that I was going to actually use it for vegetable starts too. And so, that kind of was what propelled us on this journey of starting to grow our own food. And then she was going to lose her job. We had to move. We had to literally, like, every aspect of our lives in 2017 went boom and exploded. And we were stripped back to having nothing except for each other, pretty much. And things got really difficult, but we ended up finding our strength through all that hardship and all that difficulty. But that really started us on a very difficult journey that since that point, from then on out, it pretty much has been a lot of different aspects of our lives have taken turns at being a really big uphill battle. So when we still lived in town, finances, we were in an uphill battle the entire time of barely making it, barely scraping by, barely getting by. And then, there's just been other challenges and difficulties since then. I've not been able to really consistently hold down steady employment since 2017 because of my joints. I am not able to get disability because I didn't ever work for long enough to get enough credits because they fell off after, a couple years. The whole system is really screwy. If I claimed that I had some sort of big mental illness thing that's made up, then I could get money. But, because I'm not insane, I'm not somebody that's going to play the system, then, can't get any help. But that's besides the point. Gotta love the good old USA. But so I realized while sitting there and reconnecting with this person and talking to the person at the doctor's office and stuff, and basically giving her an update on my life, what I'm doing now, just how much has changed even in just the last couple of years. And I realized that, like, the version of me that used to be able to look at a difficult situation and go, it's okay, I can find the silver lining in it. I can keep holding out for hope. I can just know in a sense that things are going to get better and stuff. I've realized that because the last, I want to say 3-4 years have been so physically demanding and mentally trying and just difficult, to be honest, I've realized that through that difficulty, that it's taken a lot from me in terms of my ability to look towards the future with a lot of optimism and stuff. Like, especially like with this homestead in particular, I'm where the camper's at is actually right in front of where the garden was at, where we had thought that the garden would always be at. And now, that's getting converted into septic area. So we're not going to be able to grow there. We're not going to be able to, there's all these things that keep limiting us here and that are making things difficult here. And I realized, like, through the course of working on cleaning out this camper, because basically what we used the camper for was when we were moving here, we used it as almost like a rolling utility shed that we put a lot of stuff that we had in storage while we were living in a camper. We had thrown it all in here, and really we haven't undid anything in here for the last, in March, it'll be 2 years. So it's basically like I'm opening up a time capsule today of finding stuff that I haven't messed with or touched since we lived in town. Some of the stuff is stuff that I haven't messed with or touched since my grandpa passed away, and it's things that were his, that I got from his farm, and just there's a lot of sentimental things that I keep touching in here, and it's basically reminding me of who I used to be. And I've realized that I've shedded off and lost some really good parts of me throughout the level of difficulty that this path has been, through this journey, how heavy it's been and how big of a burden it's been. I've realized that instead of letting go of some of the really heavy energies of, feeling like I have to hurry up and get this done because the world might collapse if I don't hurry up and get this done first, metaphorically speaking, obviously it's not going to, I realized that I needed to drop different aspects of me, and what I dropped was actually a lot of really important, vital pieces of who I am at a core level, of being dealt a difficult hand and being able to see the silver lining in it, see the beauty in it and stuff. Like, especially in the past year of us being here, since knowing that, our whole yard's going to get uprooted, our whole layout of the homestead, we have to rethink all of it and change all of it and undo all of it. It's put me into a state of not wanting to try here anymore, of wanting to just throw in the towel, because there are a lot of things that make this property quite difficult to homestead on. And, a past version of myself would have been like, okay, like, well, we can't have the garden there. It really wasn't that great of a spot anyways because it was too wet all the time. A past version of myself would have gone, okay, well then I'm just going to put it back towards the barn more because that's where the manure is. A past version of myself would have gone, Lindsay, you actually realized in the first year of gardening here that you don't like having just one big garden, that you really like having multiple little ones here, there, everywhere, just scattered all over the different microclimates. So you should just embrace this. And a lot of other things too was, with where they're putting this at, I got really bummed out because we could not build a building here. There's very limited spots as to where we could put a building, to put like a workshop, a shed, or a garage, or anything of the sort like that for me to use as a place that I can do woodworking at, because that is something that I've really wanted to have a dedicated space to do that at since like 2017. And I realized with talking to this person, because she also, well, let me backtrack a little bit, getting ahead of myself. I seen a squirrel and I got distracted, quite literally. I'm going to spin you guys around so you guys can see the view from the camper. So there's the field, obviously. There's some windows there, and the squirrel was over there by the pines. So, anyways, I realized that with this place, there isn't a perfect place to build another building, to have an outbuilding, to have a garage space, to have a workshop that I can do, make crafts and furniture and different things like that, because I really, really have a passion for doing that, especially making very custom stuff that particularly works only in one home. Like in our house in town, we desperately needed more space, more counter space in the kitchen next to the stove. But there was this nice set of drawers that was there that we used all the time that were very important for our kitchen's function. So I basically built this neat island thing that went up and over top of that was on wheels, that we could pull it out when we were going to be making a bunch of salsa or needed more prep space, but then we could push it back so that way it was a nice counter space for whenever we needed counter space. I really enjoyed making things like that are really multi-function, multi-purpose and things. But I realized that here, because of the septic stuff, our vision for this land has to greatly change, has to become very altered. And I need to go back to the version of myself that could be handed a whole big pile of rotting fruit and go, I can still make something with this because there's still good bits and pieces. I can harvest the seeds from it. I can start trees from it. I can do all these things because that's how my mind used to work. But because this journey has been so heavy and so weary and so exhausting and trying, and there's been so much pressure to it, that when this big blow up or whatever you want to call it happened, I pretty much just wanted to throw in the towel and say, screw it, I'm done. I don't want to even conceive any other possible outcome for this property except for just to leave, just to be done with it, because I just can't go on. But the universe, it works in very funny ways. It works in ways of sending people from your past right to you when you're over an hour from home, almost 2 hours from where you used to know that person at. And, you're both stuck sitting there. And it basically reignited something within me. It reignited a passion within me because she also got to talking to me about woodworking stuff, about the exact type of project that I have in mind that I want to do next, which in a future video, I will share plans with that for you guys, but I need to get the camper done so that way I can do that future project. But yeah, it basically, I realized how much has changed within me, how much I've shifted, how much I've thrown by the wayside, and how basically I was perceiving all the blows that kept happening to me as things that were happening to me, not ways that things were happening for me. And I've realized that I've kind of drug you guys along on that same journey of shutting off potentials and possibilities, because in the comment section there have been people that have made suggestions of, well, maybe you could try this or maybe you could try that, and I quickly shut it down because it's like I was in such a place of anger and hurt of what was taken from me and stuff that I didn't want to see the potential, that I didn't want to see the brightness of it, the love that could still be found here, the happiness, the joy, the excitement. I just kept seeing it as we got kicked in the pants and I don't want to deal with it anymore. But so anyways, moving forward, it's kind of chilly to just be sitting here. I need to get back to work. Moving forward, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to slow down again and actually look at things of how a past version of myself would have seen them through those rose-colored glasses, those super optimistic vision of, well, you could grow anything anywhere. Because that's how I did it in town. We grew radishes in our flower beds. We grew mint in the other flower bed that wouldn't grow flowers because there was too much shade. We grew pretty much everything everywhere that we could and jam-packed it so full that it was unbelievable how much we grew in such a small space. And I keep thinking that, I keep getting hung up on this thing that I feel very called in my heart, that what I'm supposed to do, my big grand purpose in life, is to help build a community, to help feed a community, and to help provide for a community. And because I kept looking at this land and looking at things with such a narrow view, I kept feeling like it wasn't possible for me to have that big of an impact here. it wasn't possible for me to help hundreds of people here. Even though I was actively doing that through, selling the bread at the farmer's market and stuff, I was actively helping tons of people. I was actively working on creating a community. For some reason, my mind just, I think because of being so overloaded and overwhelmed, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see that the way that I look at the world and other properties and other things, that actually could help more people through doing things like YouTube, or even just posting it on Facebook, sharing pictures, or even just creating a roadside stand, or maybe even just donating food to food banks. I don't know. I couldn't see that what I'm called to do doesn't necessarily mean that I'm supposed to physically feed hundreds of people every week, or, thousands of people, or, whatever, provide for a massive community. I realized that it could be one of those domino effects, like the ripple effects of that, I can't feed someone a state over from me, but I could teach them how to feed people over there. That I can't go to the inner city and, try to convince people that they want to try this neat and unusual vegetable. But I can teach somebody that has the ability to train other people how to do those things, or to teach a chef as to how to use something. I could do something different that I don't need to. I've realized that not everything has to be as black and white as my mind keeps trying to make it be. That it's not as cut and dry, that I can be used in different ways and stuff. Plus, too, I was not given a body that can actually, do these things on such a large scale. My wife reminds me of that often, that if I was supposed to feed the masses, I would probably be in a lot better physical shape, not have arthritis through my entire spine. That's kind of what I found out yesterday. So yeah. But yeah, there's been big shifts happening, big changes happening. But so it kind of inspired me today to work on cleaning out the camper, so that way I can have this become my workshop. I can have this become my flex space, even though it's not that big. I think it's about 15 feet long, 8 feet wide, something like that. So, I mean, it's not huge, but it's functional. It's usable. Even though it's not finished and stuff, I had started remodeling this so that way when we lived in our camper, then this could be almost like a room for our son, so that way he had more space. But, obviously that didn't get finished because we, got a house and stuff. So I think that what I'm going to do is finish this space out the rest of the way. Basically, all I need to do is the ceiling. I literally have it so that way there's foam insulation up there, and I screwed the ceiling panels up in one spot to the ceiling because we got them and then realized we were going to be moving. So I didn't finish it. So that's going to be my plan for the next couple of days, is to try to work on getting this space finished, so then that way it can be a usable, workable space, a flex space. That way we can start some seedlings in here, hatch out chicks in here, have it set up as a brooder in one area, and then also have almost like a workbench set up for me, so that way I can build the few projects that I really am itching to get done, that I desperately need a dry, safe space that's not outside or inside of our house to make a huge mess all over the brand new floor. So that's kind of where I'm at. I know this is kind of a ramble and a jumble and all over the place, and I'll probably watch this back going, wow, you really do have a lot of problems with squirrels and ADHD and going all over the place. But that's okay. Whoever this is meant for, it'll find. I trust that. That's kind of how the whole journey with YouTube has been for me, is that I've not tried any specific thing to try to go after one specific thing. I've just sort of documented everything that comes to me and flows to me and feels right. So that's what I'll continue doing. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.